Hi everyone, I am doing my first Facebook Live in honor of the Sagittarius Full Moon. So the Sagittarius Full Moon is today, or was today, at 4:30 a.m. for those of us who are on the East Coast of the United States. I am Sagittarius rising, so I thought that, hey, I'm in the spotlight, why not turn on Facebook Live? So for those who follow me over on Instagram, and I am at Empowering Astro on Instagram, I have done a few Facebook or Instagram Lives already. So it's something that I'm trying to interact with you more. I do have more followers on Facebook than Instagram, so this is a interesting test. But at the heart of this is I wanted to talk more about today's Sagittarius full moon, which I wrote about in my full moon report. If you haven't read it, you can find it on Facebook, or you can find it on my website, empoweringastrology.com. So in this full moon report, I titled it Crisis of Faith. Why? Because even though Sagittarius is a sign that is optimistic, it's about adventure, it's about exploration, it's about seeing the world through different eyes and travel and exploration, but it's a sign right now with Jupiter, its ruler. Jupiter has been in this bit of a dance this year with Neptune and Pisces. So we haven't quite had the exuberance that we would normally have with Jupiter in Sagittarius, it's been in Sagittarius since November of 2018. Incidentally, the last time Jupiter was in Sagittarius was 2006, 2007, and we had Pluto in Sagittarius at the time. So we haven't really had gotten to experience this kind of unfiltered, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, Jupiter and Sagittarius. So Jupiter and Sagittarius, it's a sign that really gets down to the heart of things in terms of what do we believe in. And that's a very abstract concept because astrology, it's easy to think about, okay, this is a sign of communication. This is how you communicate, or this is a sign of relationships. This is how you relate. But what do you believe in? What's your faith? What's your truth? So because astrology in all of its 12 signs talks about different facets of human life, there has to be a sign that talks about these more existential questions. So yes, this full moon is really touching on ideas of belief and faith, wisdom and knowledge. But because of this square to Neptune, and Neptune is a planet that can pull at something. And sometimes it pulls down because it's a very sensitizing influence. So just looking at some of the comments, yes, hi. I know I recognize some of these faces that are saying hello, but thank you. Yes, Canada and even here in New York. But so Neptune, Neptune is sometimes I make a little bit of a jerk statement, but Neptune's one of those planets I don't think a lot of people understand in astrology, and I don't think many astrologers understand it because it's an influence that takes us out of the physical. Anything, the modern planets, when I say modern planets, I say Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they're dealing with a part of life that is not, your usual basic everyday life. We're going into an experience beyond, into something like Neptune. It dissolves the boundaries between this world and the next. Now, it can be very spiritual, of course, and maybe this full moon for you has been very spiritual. A time for meditation, reflecting, thinking about those deeper questions, connecting with source energy, for instance. But Neptune can also pull us down into what I call our abyss, meaning we all have that dark place within us. And I say this as a Scorpio, so just being real. But we all have our own dark place. And so Neptune can kind of pull us down into that spot. And when we are in that spot, since we're dealing with Jupiter, I'm wondering, and actually I'm not just wondering, I'm seeing it with people around me, that people are having some crisis of faith right now. It could be faith in terms of spirituality or even religion, but it's faith in ourselves, faith that everything that we do, it will work out. So this is how I'm feeling this astrology, and I just think it's important that we take some time to sit with these questions, these bigger existential questions. Don't push them aside if you can. If you can meditate, if you can go for a walk to clear your head, if you can talk to somebody about how you're feeling, this would be a good way to use this this full moon energy. It's also a time when it's a good time to talk about what we believe in, you know, to really demonstrate our knowledge, our faith. So if there's something that we really truly believe in, you know, Sagittarius is a very philosophical sign. So this this full moon might be kind of bringing up these more, you know, philosophical questions. What does this all mean? Where am I going? And maybe you really truly know where you're going, although with the Neptune influence, maybe not so sure. But that's okay. It's part of life. We all have to go through things that shake our consciousness, that shake our awareness of ourselves. And when we get to signs like Sagittarius, which is, let's say, the last 4 signs, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, we are dealing with life that's outside of basic level existence. We're going into these bigger and more abstract themes. So I'm just saying hi to everybody. I can see you kind of popping on, you know, for my first Facebook Live. So if you are an Aries or an Aries rising, of course, this is actually really digging into themes of faith and meaning on a very basic level. You might even be thinking about going back to school, making a decision about schooling, or even going on a trip, because Sagittarius loves to travel. It loves long distance journeys and it loves exploration. If you are a Taurus, Sagittarius is a part of your chart that digs into really deep emotions. It's what's called your 8th sign. And so this might be doubling a lot of this, you know, what does this mean? You know, you're kind of maybe in a little bit more of your darker space during this time. Maybe you're just, as a, you know, as a Taurus, you're sort of realizing that there's a lot of stuff that's in your, let's say, your psychic basement, your nooks and crannies. So this might be quite a sensitive moon for you, Taurus, and one where you feel like there is a sense of kind of proverbial death and rebirth. And Taurus, I know, as an aside, you know, you're a sign right now that is having to make a lot of changes this year, and then, you know, starting on this multi-year journey of reinventing yourself now that Uranus is in Taurus. Carrie, you ask about what about the Aries moon? Now, this is a question I actually got into with some other astrologers recently. We occasionally meet up here in New York City for dinner or drinks, and this idea of reading for your moon sign. Now, my feeling about that is if you read for your moon sign and you get something out of it, then great. It's not traditional. Maybe traditional is not quite the right word, but maybe it's not what you would normally do, or because you could, in theory, read from the perspective of every planet in your chart. You just have to kind of change the verbs and the nouns and like what, you know, who is it receiving. This is what's called derived houses. This is a little bit of a intermediate term for astrology, but I think that you can get a lot out of the sun and moon, reading for your sun sign and your rising sign, not moon sign. I also sometimes see that reading for your, what's called your chart ruler. I mentioned this on Instagram Live last week. The chart ruler is the ruler of your ascendant, ruler of your rising sign. So if you are Aries rising, then Mars is your chart ruler, and you'd look to see where it is in the chart. But that's, I mean, you can still get a lot of good information out of the sun and the rising sign by reading that. So moving on to Gemini rising, this is in your relationship sign. Sagittarius is your relationship sign. So you, Gemini, might have to make a decision about a relationship. And it's all relationships. It's not just romantic relationships. You might have to confront something. You might have to look and see how you are compromising, interacting, and negotiating with people. But it might be a time, Gemini, I mean, I know it's your birthday too, if you're a Gemini sun, when, you know, life's a bit interactive right now. Life's a little bit loud right now. You've just stepped into a new personal year because you've just had your birthday. Moving on to Cancer. Sagittarius is what's called your health and wellness sign. It's how you take care of your body. It's how you work, organize, show up, brush your teeth, all that fun stuff. So this is a very practical full moon for you, Cancer. So just make sure you're, like I said, brushing your teeth, taking care of everything, getting a checkup from the doctor, going to the gym, going for a walk, looking at what you're eating. It's, I mean, you know, you figure out what's right for your body, but nevertheless, you have a body that you need to take care of. It might be a time when you're, you know, having to get organized and focus on work and projects. It might be a bit of a busy time right now, Cancer. And then going into Leo. So for you, Leo, this is a time when it's about the self. And I mean that in terms of personality, identity, creativity, you know, not that self on a very rudimentary level, but the self where it has personality, it has pizzazz, something that, you know, as Leo, you should know all about. So this is a time when your talents, your creativity, yourself, your expression is very much in the spotlight. It's also a time when maybe it's about fun. Maybe it's about, I was going to say leisure, but there's a better word for that, kind of escaping me at the moment, because that part of the chart does talk about just kind of having fun, something that Leo actually really enjoys. So moving on to Virgo. This is in your home sign, Virgo rising. So for those who are just kind of jumping in, I am doing this for sun and rising sign because astrology is like a clock. And that's how I write horoscopes. That's how I write all my astrology updates for you all. I just change the clock. I turn it to Leo time, or I turn it to Gemini time. I turn it to Scorpio time. And then I see where the different hands of the clock are moving. So right now for Virgo rising, it's time for home and family. It's time to think about roots and foundation. You may be making a decision about your living situation. You may be moving. You may be needing to make more connections with family, but really it's also about that emotional core and getting what you need. And maybe with Mars, you know, in Cancer right now, or maybe with Jupiter square Neptune, you know, maybe you're feeling like you're not getting what you need. And Virgo, I know as a sign, you have a tendency to put people first. So how do you make sure you also are getting what you need at this time? Moving on to Libra. So Sagittarius is what's called your, like, it describes how you think. It describes how you learn and move and travel. And this might be a full moon that's putting the spotlight on information and education. And so you might need, you know, you might be like hearing a lot of news at this time. You might be making trips back and forth, commuting. There's a sense of travel and movement at this time. You know, and there's something, and conversations are very highlighted right now. So there's a sense of like, you might be, you know, in conversation a lot with people at this time. And, you know, maybe with some of these deeper themes highlighted with this full moon, these conversations are very existential in nature, or very philosophical in nature. And then moving on to Scorpio, this is in your money sign. So this is a time when, you know, Jupiter is in your money sign for the rest of the year. So typically this is a time when it's easier to bring in income or bring in new opportunities to make income. Nevertheless, maybe with Jupiter square Neptune, there's like crisis of faith around money. But this is a time when, you know, the question, because full moons really do bring about a question. They bring about a need to make a decision, decide how we are going to like move forward. We can like see things in the light of the full moon. It might be time when you're having to make a decision about what you need materially, on a resource level, on a money level. So it's very much about getting financially stable at this time, Scorpio. And I will say Scorpio, and I am Scorpio, Uranus right now in Taurus and for the next 7 years, I mean, your life is changing, Scorpio. So, you know, this idea of like, as your life starts to do this a bit, you know, you're kind of like trying to figure out what to hold on to, what's going to make you feel safe at this time. And then moving on to Sagittarius, you are in the spotlight, Sagittarius rising. So this is a time when there's a sense of stepping into the light, putting yourself out there. It's about the self, taking initiative, being a leader, drive. So if you are a Sag or a Sag rising, go do something. Don't sit around. I mean, I know that with Jupiter in this awkward square to Neptune, I'm just going to be real. It's, you know, maybe you're kind of second guessing yourself, but you have to keep moving. You have to move forward. You know, there's probably been some moments where you just wanted to like give up. But I think with all this really stressful astrology that we're experiencing right now, it's important to keep moving, keep going, reach deep inside that part of you that is very optimistic, will always see the, you know, that kind of glimmer of hope or that silver lining in the cloud, like turn towards that. That's going to be what's going to lead you out of this time. And then with Capricorn, Sagittarius is what's called your 12th sign, 12th being the last. It's a place where it's about letting go, shedding the past, spirituality, these more deeper existential questions. So Capricorn, you are having a bit of a time right now. I think you're the sign in the zodiac that I probably should give a hug to first, because a lot is shaking and moving for you right now, Capricorn, especially in advance of July's solar and lunar eclipses, plus the Saturn-Pluto conjunction into next year. So make sure you're retreating, and I mean this in the best possible way. Meaning, if you need to take a rest, if you need to go into the woods for 3 days and not talk to anybody, fantastic. If you need to decompress, if you need to heal, if you need to recuperate, fantastic. Just make sure you're getting that quiet time so that you can mark this transition between everything you've lived up until this point and then the doors that are opening for you in the next few weeks with the eclipses. So, you know, like I said, you've been through a lot, Capricorn, so just make sure you're tending to yourself, body, mind, and soul. And yes, we more often will tend to our physical wounds, you know, and our physical bruises and nicks, but we sometimes forget our spiritual wounds. So make sure you're doing that soul work right now, Capricorn. Then moving to Aquarius. So Sagittarius highlights friends, community, this idea of the collective or groups, that we are part of something larger. So this might be a time when you are very engaged socially, Aquarius, or engaged in social causes or something on a community level. It's a time for you to find the people that see eye to eye with you. And maybe with this Jupiter square Neptune, there's a sense of like, do you have friends? Do you have allies? Do you have people? Because, you know, there's like a sense of second guessing with this full moon. We're second guessing our optimism. And then so you might be making some decisions about who you want to be connected with or what your community is right now, Aquarius. And then going into the last sign, Pisces, this is in your career sign. So Pisces this can be something as literal as making some changes in your professional life, getting a new job, making some lateral moves, starting something new. But I could also talk to direction. So you may, Pisces, need to figure out which way you're kind of steering the ship. And as much as the top of the chart talks about your place in the world, your ambitions, what you want to do when you grow up. It also talks about, what is it that's driving you forward? What are you going towards? So, Pisces, use this time to really, well, if you need to, push forward in your professional life, and also, take time and to reflect. It's what you do well, Pisces. Where you want to go? What are your ambitions? What do you want your goals for the coming year? So that's this full moon in the 12 signs. I'm just going to quickly look at the comments. Yes, hello everybody. To see if there's any questions. Oh, thank you. You're amazing too, Brenda. Yes, thank you. I'm trying to get my face out there more instead of just being all words. So this is what's part of the thing. So yes, somebody asked if I covered Taurus. I did cover Taurus. The live video, I mean, mind you, this is my first one. I believe they do a replay, so you can go back and watch this. And if you missed something because you joined late, that should still be there. So if you have any quick questions, put them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. But I also wanted to highlight a few things that are upcoming. As I was alluding to, we have these eclipses in July 2nd and July 16th. And I am doing a webinar on these eclipses, but I'm doing it on June 25th. And it's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you can't make it live, that's fine. You can still register to receive the video replay. But it's going to explain to you why eclipses are important, and we have them every 6 months. And we had them in January, and we're going to have them again in July. What these eclipses are teaching us, what are they teaching for each sign, and how you can work with their energy. Because eclipses are very potent. Whenever I sit down to work with a client, I have my own thing that I do, my own like ritual, or like kind of how I map out all the energy. But one of the things I'm making a beeline towards, like, where are the eclipses right now? Because that tells me what time it is in your life very strongly. Is it a time for change? Is it a time for rest? And I tell my clients is that your chart is like a map. It is like your instruction manual that you came into this life with. And I just happen to know how to read this map. So when I work with people, I like to help place them into what time it is in their life, and also help guide them to understand how to get from point A to point B, understanding what's in the way. And oftentimes it's us that are in the way. So it means talking about our blocks and how we're self-sabotaging, so we can kind of get to that bigger picture, which is another thing that I talked about in a previous webinar on the lunar nodes, which is that compass point for your soul. It's kind of telling you which way is north in this lifetime. I'm also, and this is if you're in Brooklyn, I'm doing a panel talk for Pride on astrology and empowerment on June 20th in Gowanus in Brooklyn. You can go to my website. There's a link for events. I have all my events, both in person and also online. I'm also teaching, this is in New York. I don't know, maybe you guys like to travel. I'm teaching a 2-day workshop on the energetic structures of the human body, which is a little bit of an abstract concept, but when you understand your energetic self, in addition to your physical self, you understand how your energetic self is connecting to everything. Whether you're walking into a room or riding the subway or riding in your car or with your partner, and how when you have this new consciousness, you can start to shift your energy in a positive way to create more harmony, in this world. And then you're also learning about the this energetic fabric of reality. You're learning to feel this energetic fabric of reality. So that information is also in my events. It's the June 29th and June 30th. It's like a 1.5-day workshop in Manhattan. I have a friend of mine who's flying in from LA, so who knows? Maybe you want to come into town. And then I'm gonna do a webinar, I think it's July 13th on Pluto, because we're going into July and we're really cranking up that Saturn-Pluto energy. So I think it's good to do a webinar on Pluto. So stay tuned for details on that. Sign up for my newsletter, which I always will announce things there. You can find all the signups either on my Facebook page or on my website. And then you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter. So this was my quick broadcast. Unless you guys have any burning quick questions, I'm going to say goodbye and let you all have a lovely evening, and hope to be doing more of this because it's a nice, interesting, quick and easy way to interface with you all just beyond language. So the written word, that is. So have a wonderful full moon, and we will do this again another time. Bye.